Hey there, casual moviegoers, casual movie guy back here today. I am very excited to talk about Ant-Man. So Ant-Man is the last film of Marvel's Phase 2. A lot of people thought it ended with Age of Ultron, but it really officially ends with Ant-Man. Ant-Man is such a great movie. Holy shit, I am so excited to talk about this movie. I had so much fun with it. I was able to see it with a friend opening night on Thursday, and it was such a fun and entertaining film. And it wasn't just that, it had so many great aspects to it. I usually use fun as a word to describe movies when they're not very well made, but I was still entertained by them. But this movie was entertaining and well made as well. I'm gonna get into the negatives a little later because there's not many, but it does have its problems, and I'll get into that. But right now I just want to talk about how awesome this movie is. To start off, the performances in this film are outstanding. Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, was perfect casting. The dude just has this satirical deadpan style of comedy that is just perfect for this movie. He portrays the character excellent, and I don't know too much about the character of Ant-Man as far as his comic book counterpart and how he acts in comic books or TV shows. I haven't seen too much of him, only a little bit on an animated Avengers TV show, but not much, so I don't know if he portrayed the character as accurately as the comic books. But I don't care about that because in the movie it came across very interesting. The character was interesting, compelling, and for the first time in a long time, I was actually very emotionally connected to a character. You feel for this guy. He just wants to be a good father, but he's made mistakes and he doesn't want to keep making them, but he feels like he's forced to, and that was interesting to me. I was very interested in this character, where he was going to go from there. You know how it's going to end up because it's a typical movie. It's going to be a cliche ending, but I was interested in the plot regardless. It was very well made writing. The writing was interesting, the dialogue was witty and smart, the comedy was awesome in it. Michael Douglas does a great job of playing Hank Pym, who was the original Ant-Man, which you find out in the film. He was such a smart and interesting guy. He definitely has a very cool backstory that I was interested in finding out. I would love to see a little more about his character. Maybe in the next Ant-Man you'll find out a little bit more about him, but learning the trials that he went through with his wife and all the other stuff that he had with his technology and people wanting to use it for bad, and that was all really cool to watch. But the guy who stole the show for me was Michael Pena. Michael Pena, I think, is a very, very good actor, and I think he can do a lot more than comedy, but in this movie, his comedic timing was perfect. There was nothing wrong with him in this movie. He was funny in every single scene he was in. I am not overselling this guy in this film. He was amazing. I would love to see a spin-off with just his character. I cannot remember the last time a character was funny in every single scene he was in. There was not one scene that he was in that I did not laugh, and that is a true compliment I can give to a comedic actor. Now, besides the performances, the special effects and the action scenes in this film were very, very well done. When I saw the trailers, I was a little weary about it and a little skeptical, thinking that it may not be done that well, but the whole scenes with him shrinking and fighting guys is very, very well done. Him learning how to use the suit was fun to watch, and it was entertaining. But the whole thing that stole the show for me, as far as the special effects and actions, were the ants. Going into this movie, it was the biggest thing I was skeptical about. I thought it was going to be a cheap gimmick, and I didn't think it would work out well. But learning how the ants are different, and how there's different ants, and they have different abilities, and they can do different things, and how he utilizes their abilities, was very, very cool to watch. The CGI looked very, very good with them. They looked like realistic ants, and it was just, it all blended together in such a beautiful way. It was like a concoction of awesomeness, just all swirling around together and exploding into awesomeness all over the screen. Whew. And like I said, this is not just an entertaining movie. It's a very well-made movie. It's very well written, and they owe that completely to Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright is one of the most talented men in Hollywood today. He does not get enough credit. If you've seen movies like the Cornetto trilogy, which is Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, which is on Netflix if you want to watch it, it's a hysterical movie, and At World's End, those are three of his biggest films, and they are such great movies. They are so well made. But the dude is just a very talented writer and director, and I was very, very sad when I found out he was departing from the movie as the director because of creative differences with Marvel. And when I heard they wanted to change up a lot of the stuff he wanted to do, it really pissed me off, because they should have just let him do what he wanted to do. This would probably be the best Marvel movie ever made if they would have let him do what he wanted to do, and when he wanted to do it, and how he wanted to do it. But they had to, put their input in, as all studio producers and studios have to do. but I feel like it took away from the movie. You can definitely tell it's an Edgar Wright movie. There are definitely some mannerisms and stuff that Edgar Wright has in his other films that are in this one, and I'm so glad they kept that stuff in, because you can still feel like this had the Edgar Wright touch to it, which was really cool, and I just wish he would have stayed on as the director. The last thing I'm going to talk about as far as positives go is the way it ties into the Avengers and the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. I like that they made tie-ins to the Avengers and other aspects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and make sure you stay tuned though after the film, because there is a mid-credit and an end credit scene, so make sure you stay for those. They are really cool and interesting to watch, and they just get you really hyped for upcoming movies. But I really liked how this movie tied into the other Marvel films in the cinematic universe, but it was also its own standalone thing. If you didn't have those other aspects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in it, it would still be a great movie. Now, if you want me to talk about the negatives, some of the negatives in this movie are the fact that it has a weak villain, and that's something Marvel's had a problem with recently. I can't wait for Thanos, because we've been building up to him for so many movies now, and I think he's going to be such a great villain. But every villain in Marvel, except with the exception of Loki, is kind of a bad villain. They're not very memorable. They're not interesting. You won't remember them after the movie's over. They're just not that interesting of characters, and I think that Marvel needs to work on writing their villains better. They do great jobs of writing their heroes and interesting and cool side characters, but they just always have a problem writing good villains. Another problem this movie has is it's a tad bit too long. I feel like if you would have cut out certain scenes that were unnecessary, it would have been a better movie. It probably is about 15-20 minutes too long, which isn't too bad, and I can tolerate that. It's just a little too long for my liking. I think that a lot of movies are having that problem lately. They're trying to cram too much in, and it just feels a little too forced, and if they would just cut out certain parts, it would have been a better film overall. It would have been more condensed and a better A to B story. But other than that, I don't have any complaints with this film. It was such a great movie. It may even be my favorite film of Phase 2. That's saying I may even like it better than The Winter Soldier and Age of Ultron. That's saying a lot. If you've seen my Avengers Age of Ultron review, you know I love that movie to death. Looking back on it now, it's probably not an 11 out of 11 like I gave it. I was a little overzealous at that point, but trying to give more accurate scores for movies. But I'm going to give this movie a 10 out of 11. I seriously think it is such a great film. If you have any doubts, please erase them. Go see this movie as soon as possible. Try to see it in IMAX or RPX, whatever your theater has, as far as like a big widescreen viewing. Go see that. It'll add so much to it. I plan on seeing this movie again, probably in 3D, because from what I've heard, the 3D in this film is very, very good. Like, it's made for 3D, but I still had a good time, even though my showing wasn't in 3D. I'm the Casual Movie Guy. If you want to hear more from me, you should definitely hit that subscribe button. Make sure to like this video. Check out some of my other ones, and I'm out.